Ekonomi Malaysia diramal tumbuh 4.4% tahun ini dan 6.1% tahun depan. Menurut Credit Suisse, berdasarkan pertumbuhan dan unjuran pertumbuhan dalam tempoh 2020 hingga 2022, Malaysia bakal menjadi negara kedua di ASEAN dengan pertumbuhan pantas. Beberapa dapatan kajian berkaitan Malaysia turut dinyatakan firma itu termasuk unjuran peluang pelaburan dan juga kedudukan pasaran saham. Dan bagi mengulas lanjut, kita bersama dengan Ketua Ahli Ekonomi Juai IQI, Shan Said, yang bersedia pada ketika ini. Good morning, Shan. Thank you so much for joining us. Shan, first of all, Credit Suisse came out with Malaysian Economic Outlook Report 2022 on December 3rd, 2021, stating note cautiously optimistic. Is this in line with your forecast for 2022, or do you have any other different viewpoint?
Yes, thank you, Arif. I think it's in line with our forecast because we have shared for the last 2 months that we expect Malaysian GDP for 2022 to be meandering around 4 to 5%, based on the premise that economic outlook is pretty strong because 96% of the population is vaccinated, economy is opening up, domestic demand continues to stay strong, the trade volumes globally are over $1 trillion ringgit, and overall investors are quite optimistic about various sectors of Malaysian economy. So I think we are quite buoyant for next year, and we expect the GDP to be between 4 and 5%.
And also, Shan, Credit Suisse GDP outlook for Malaysia for next year is 6.1%. What is your GDP forecast for Malaysia for 2022, and what are your assumptions for our economy recovery, especially for next year?
We expect not 6%, but between 4 and 5%. Based on the premise, yes, Malaysia has successfully managed to control this virus as 96% of population is vaccinated. But the problem lies in the global economy, especially advanced economy. As of yesterday, many economies in Europe are thinking of closing down. UK is planning to close down. So I think once these advanced economies, they close down, again, the problem will start and there will be slowdown in advanced economies. So once you have slowdown in advanced economies, obviously it will drag the whole global economy into a slow growth mode. So I think on Malaysia front, yes, the factors are quite positive, but the exogenous factors, especially from the advanced economies, are not very positive. And that's going to lead global economy into a new slow growth mode. So we expect 2022 would be tougher than 2021 for the global economy.
Shan, let's look at KLCI target where Credit Suisse sets at 1,730 points. What's your point of view on the KLCI levels?
I think the market is trading at attractive valuations. The market is not expensive relative to its historical valuation. It's trading at 14.4 PE average, which is below the historical average of 16.9. And in terms of price to book value, the market is trading at 1.4. We expect the ROI to be trading above 8.5, 8.6, which is higher than 5.9% in 2020. So the valuations are still very attractive despite the stamp duty being implemented next year, because investors, they don't have choice. And some of the sectors that are quite attractive would be plantation, would be technology, would be gloves, based on the premise that demand supply imbalances have positive implications for these sectors. So overall, we expect KLCI to be trading between 1,600 and 1,700 points for 2022.
And also, Shan, the OPR rate outlook and Bank Negara moves because we've seen big four central banks, i.e. the Federal Reserve, the ECB, Bank of England, and also Bank of Japan, are pondering over possible rate hikes. It looks like it looks more hawkish now as inflation has got serious and not transitory in advanced economies. Is there a concern of inflation in Malaysia?
Firstly, your question as far as OPR and Bank Negara, I think for the first 6 months, we don't expect Bank Negara to increase interest rates. Bank Negara will continue to monitor the inflation outlook in Malaysia, but also globally. The big four central banks are panicking. The biggest signal is the yield curve. And yield curve is sending worrying signs that Fed is making policy error. Once Fed makes the policy error, it will create pandemonium, it will create bedlam. And they expect Fed, once it panics, it will hike the interest rate, and that will create huge pandemonium, especially in the equity and bond market. And inflation is not transitory, it's not temporary. So they have changed the narrative, especially Fed, from being transitory, and they're saying that this inflation is stubborn and this inflation is serious. So I think we expect OPR rate to be between 1 and 1.75% for 2022. But overall, for the last 2 years, I think Bank Negara has played its card very strategically, and they have managed to maintain structural stability of ringgit against USD. So we expect the monetary policy to remain stable.
Alright, Shan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Itu tadi Shan Said, Ketua Ahli Ekonomi Jiwa AQI, membincangkan tentang unjuran tahun hadapan, bukan sahaja ekonomi, malah juga kita melihat kepada FEM KSCI untuk pasaran saham, dan sudah pasti kita juga melihat bagaimanakah kedudukan untuk kadar faedah ataupun kadar dasar semalaman yang mungkin pada pandangan Shan sendiri tidak akan berubah pada tahun hadapan.